Being an active listener is one of the most essential tools that you can have to build relationships. It really is the only way that you can understand another person's perspective. But it doesn't come naturally, and it's not so easy to do.
But you can develop the skills. So in this series, we are going to delve into the science as well as give you some actionable tips and tricks that you can use to be a better listener.
Join us for the Power of Listening series. If you are watching this video, then you know this is video number 2 in the Power of Listening series. We help give you the skills to be an active listener. In this video, we're going to focus on how to be present. But first off, what does being present mean? Well, we know what it doesn't mean. It's not when you're taking a phone call from someone and they're trying to tell you something and we are cleaning the dishes, folding the laundry, doing all sorts of other things and making them feel like we're not listening. We all have been on the other side of a phone call like that, where you're wondering, what is that noise? What is that banging? What is going on? Are they even listening to me?
Now, we went through things that tend to get in the way in the last video in this series. So if you didn't catch that, go back and check that out. But there's a lot of things that tend to get in the way of our ability to be a good listener, whether it's our biases that exist or multitasking. So in this video, we are going to focus on the power of being present. The reality is that we have to be able to show up to the interactions that we're having, making sure that we're being present and avoiding those things that get in the way. So we're going to give you some tips for how you can ensure you're doing this.
At the Dental MEP, we use science to teach people skills to you. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel and don't forget to hit the bell so you never miss out.
When we are learning to be an active listener, sometimes we have to be intentional with these interactions. We really have to set ourselves up for success. And honestly, to be fully present, we have to be intentional with that too. It's not so easy to be present. We have so many people and so many things that are pulling us in different directions. So you may have to literally schedule it. I know it sounds weird, right? Schedule time to be an active listener. But in all reality, if I'm going to be meeting someone, if I have a team member, for instance, that I need to have a conversation with, instead of saying, hey, when you have a minute, hey, when you have a minute, and then yet we might still have a bunch of distractions that happen, that's not going to put me in that ability to be fully present. So if I schedule it, if we have a scheduled time where I know that I can be fully present, that helps. If we think of today's world with all of this virtual communication, if we have a Zoom meeting, we want to make sure that we are showing that we're present. We want to be able to be fully present. And that might mean that I have to schedule a time that works for me. I've got 2 little kids that are running around and can make lots of noise. So I need to schedule it at a time where I know my attention is not going to get pulled in like a million different directions.
Now, this is definitely one of those things that we've started to get better with. So if you've had a phase where you were working remotely or you're transitioning to doing more things remotely, you've probably had experience with scheduling Zoom meetings. And this is one thing we can kind of take away from this time is knowing that if we want to be intentional with showing up to our interactions, the first thing we have to do is we have to schedule for the interactions to have. We can pull that skill into the practice. We can say, what conversations do we need to schedule? That might be a new patient, a conversation with a team member, a consult, but really scheduling the time to say, this is the point where I will be able to be available to listen and I will be distraction free. Because that's the second part is we have tons of things that compete for our attention every single day, whether it's our long to-do list of things that we need to get done, or it's something that a team member needs, or it's our kids that are in need of something as well. There's a lot of competition for our attention. So we have to be able to press like a do not disturb.
That would be amazing. Could you imagine if you could just like push a button and be like, do not disturb, and it happens? So honestly, that's a great question is what does that look like for you? If you were to push a do not disturb button in your day that would help you to be an active listener, what would that look like? It's amazing how many little distractions we have that we're not even aware of. Do you maybe wear an iWatch that gets your messages? And when you're having a conversation with them, you even just kind of glance down for a quick second. You know, we can't help it. You hear the beep, you hear the buzz, you feel the buzz. We can't help but look at it. But those tiny little distractions all it takes is one of those and it ruins the ability to be an active listener. Now, there's lots of different ways that we get distracted. So there's all these external factors that can happen. So we want to make sure that we're shutting those off to the best of our abilities. So pay attention to those. But we also have a lot of internal distractions.
Yes. So one of the biggest things competing for our attention is ourselves.
That's true.
So we've all had those moments where we're listening to someone tell us a story or talk about an experience that they had. And we start to think about a time that we've shared a similar experience. And we're really excited to tell someone about this, to share our experience with them. This scientifically is because we have what's called mirror neurons. So when someone is sharing an experience with us, something that has happened to them, our brain activates those same neurons that were involved in the experience, whether it was a smell or literally a physical action. And then once we identify with that experience, we really want to share it.
Yeah,
because that's how we
excited.
bond as people, is we share stories, we share experiences. That's how we go about helping to educate someone. However, if we are sharing our experiences, talking about a time that something similar happened to us, or trying to educate, what are we not doing? We're not listening. And so we have to take the time to recognize that those moments happen.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to not happen. We are hardwired to do that. But when we notice that we are getting lost in our own train of thought, really pausing and bringing ourselves back to the situation, back to the conversation that we're having. And we may even need to pause and acknowledge that we got distracted and say, I'm sorry, I missed what you had said. Can you please repeat that again?
And that's a huge thing because we've talked about before, one of the biggest reasons that we suck at listening is that our ego can get in the way. And that's that moment where we don't want to say like, "Ooh, I zoned out for a minute. I didn't hear you. I didn't understand what you said," because that goes against everything that we're hardwired to do. So to have that ability alone to be able to say, "Hey, can you repeat that? I didn't quite get that," or "I just kind of lost that for a moment." That right there is already practicing active listening and helping you build those neurological pathways to be a better active listener.
Now, that's another tool that we can use as well when we're having those external distractions. So if a team member pops into the room to say, "Hey, I'm ready for you when you have a chance," we've kind of been on the other end of that. If we think about being the patient in that moment when our provider's attention is pulled away, we kind of wonder if they're really fully invested in the interaction that they're having. So that's a great time to say, "Oh, I'm sorry for that interruption. Let's go back to what we were discussing." And even repeating maybe the last thing that they said to let them know that you were truly tuned in, truly present, and listening. And you want to make sure to turn back to them because your body language speaks volumes.
And that's the last part. To really ensure that you are being an active listener and showing that you are fully present, make sure that your body is showing that you're fully present. You know that Zoom meeting we talked about? If your camera is off, how do I know you're not just making a peanut butter jelly sandwich or some popcorn or using the restroom or cleaning your house? Make sure that you're showing someone that you're present. If you're talking to somebody and your back is turned to them and you're typing away, again, huge disconnect. Eye contact, body language are one of the most important nonverbal communication tools that you can use to ensure that you're being an active listener. And don't worry, we have a video on this. Make sure to watch video number 3 on the Power of Listening series so that you understand how eye contact really contributes to being a powerful listener.